Hello, good evening, and welcome back to JACKOCAR. My name is Gareth Hall, and joining me in the commentary box for this 11th round of the season at Abu Dhabi is Owen White. How are you doing, Owen?
I'm doing well, Gareth. I'm looking forward to seeing a bit of Abu Dhabi action. Hopefully, we can put on a better show than the F1 drivers did at the weekend. Hopefully, with less donuts, though. Bit too early in the season for that. But yeah, I reckon we're in for a decent race tonight. It's quite close at the top of the chase and in the at-risk zone in the playoffs. So there should be plenty going on. Only two races to go to qualify for the Championship 5. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, Cup have been here earlier in the season, which you can go back and check out on YouTube if you're new to the league, which had all matter of chaos involved and even a little bit of a rescue mission from the Team Speed drivers, if you recall back to that one, Owen, as we had Yuri, who I'm hoping won't replicate that this evening, getting himself beached and needing a little bit of a push start from his oh so helpful teammate myself on the way out of that one. But into qualifying we go. Of course, a one-shot quali for everyone. So whilst it will not watch a one-shot quali in a more of a hot lap sense, so everyone will get one attempt at a qualifying lap, which they will be going out in set order based off the points. So first out will be Harry Collier will be coming out at 13:15. So we've got plenty of time, Owen, to go over the nuances of the circuit, to go on how the season's gone so far, and your thoughts. Of course, you've just talked about the real life races we've just had to endure over the weekend, but how do you find driving around Abu Dhabi?
I enjoy it actually a bit more this year since I've got rid of all those Mickey Mouse chicanes. And Sector 3, though, is super low traction. I'll be expecting a few mishaps through there because you'll easily either invalidate or just crash when you head through there because, if you turn, I want to say, 12, 13, 14? That's sort of the properly tricky zone. So I think it's fun to drive. A lot more fast corners should hopefully lead to a bit better racing. And I wasn't obviously here for the Cup Series race. I was in a spar being forced to work my fingers to the bone. So this will be the first time I probably sit down and watch a live race here on a commentary. So yeah, I'm looking forward to sort of seeing the nuances of the track.
There's me thinking when you say I was stuck in a spa that you were getting your pedicure done and a massage and sitting in a hot tub, but clearly not. Well, let's hope that this one's a little bit more entertaining than that. We are going to Abu Dhabi, and it is a lap distance of 5.5 kilometres. That's 3.4 miles. Race distance here, I think it's 27 laps, if I'm not mistaken, but pole position right hand side of the circuit. Maximum speed they'll be hitting around about 208 to 214 miles an hour down the back straight in towards the chicane, and in the somewhat new layout, of course, adapted for the last season. Two DRS zones. Distance from P1 to turn 1 is 305 metres. Full throttle for 62% of the lap distance, with a longest flat out section of 1233 metres. It's a high downforce circuit with 56 gear changes over the lap distance itself. Sorry, thank you, Thomas. 29 laps. My apologies. There we go. 29. So it is a circuit that has been changed. Some of these guys might not be used to it because it is actually the first time that Kia are racing at Abu Dhabi. Kia started on the 9th of February 2021, and it's taken all this time to get it on the circuit, which well, to be fair, I'm quite glad about, because there's, much like Jeddah, there's not a hole deep enough that I wouldn't throw this track into. So we'll see if these guys can get out on circuit, because it can be, especially those new off-camber, somewhat hairpin corners they've added in, slightly, maybe not as grippy as what the old track was. Of course, new surface, and those cars, if you get on the throttle a little bit too early, you'll find it pointing in the wrong direction.
Yeah, let's say, and you'll find that problem, let's say, especially in Sector 3. It's obviously going to be interesting to see how much the drivers have actually practiced for this, because it's not like this track was on the game last year in this form, even though, like Spain and Australia, it was sort of meant to be, but Codemasters just decided not to. So, if you've maybe come here with slightly less practice, I'm wondering if you will get called out by the new court. I'd be very surprised if they did, considering they'll have watched presumably both races in F1 have happened here, and assuming they aren't Lewis Hamilton fans, they may actually be able to look at turn 5 without having to close their eyes. So we'll have to wait and sort of see how they all handle that. But we're getting close to seeing Harry Cotter come out of the track. He'll be followed then by two Joker drivers. Yeah, he'll be followed then by two Joker drivers of Marco and of Thomas. And yeah, that'll be our only two Jokers tonight. And yeah, I don't know if the Joker's actually the best choice round here, because especially on previous games, again, I don't know if the new track design will help, but it's always been a traditionally good two-stop track, a bit like Canada. So I'm wondering how they'll handle that, especially with safety cars and stuff like that.
That is, do you know what? I was thinking exactly the same thing when I was looking at the decisions tonight. Is that I would say that this is quite a nice two-stop circuit because it can be quite aggressively harsh on the tyres. So obviously, getting fresh boots on as soon as possible as Harry rolls out onto circuit. And the only pit exit that's gone under the track, they actually, when they were designing this, it was Herman Tilke, of course, designed the circuit. Who would have thought that the Abu Dhabi government, or the kingdom, I'd imagine, of Abu Dhabi, decided they wanted something that no other circuit would have. So they decided to put a pit lane. They went under the track, because apparently that was the one thing that they thought, this will make it stand out to everything else. Well, there we go. Rolls out on circuit in towards the new hairpin section. It's got rid of one of my least favourite parts of that circuit, is that entry into that the chicane there before the hairpin. But Harry out on circuit, and as you say, we've got two Jokers. So Joker is a driver who is elected to take one mandatory stop throughout the race. They have that one time a season. Everyone else, it is a mandatory two-stop. But one race per season, they can elect to take one stop only to give yourself, obviously, that advantage when it comes to time lost in the pit lane. So it's as we were saying, it's a tricky one. We'll see how it goes for Thomas. Thomas, who's maybe not had the greatest of endings to the season after what was a rocket start in Australia in the wet conditions, and ever since then it's been a bit stop-start for him. And just going down through, I've been making some notes getting ready for the Championship 5, as I usually do with my random facts that I've come up with. One of them being, so far this season, there's been 398 pit stops completed. Yeah, I know. Here they come. Do you know the most amount of pit stops? The most amount of pit stops this season, as Harry's just about to start his lap, is 32, and that's Yuri. So Yuri, even though he's sitting well in the advanced zone going towards the Championship 5, most amount of pit stops. Last week we were at Imola as Harry's invalidated immediately.
That's gone well, hasn't it?
So that's a start back of the grid start. So last week we were at Imola. And surprise, surprise, I counted the amount of local yellows that were created throughout the race. And in what was a very short race, really, we had 17 localised yellows and 4 safety cars. So when we're saying that safety cars may come into play tonight, that's the sort of thing you're looking at.
That is a very nice set of facts.
You're welcome.
And, well, hopefully we'll be able to see Mick Schumacher doing well. Of course, this is essentially copying the Haas livery and the helmet design that Mick Schumacher himself did use in the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Of course, all he actually managed to do was punt Latifi off into the wall in the race. Hopefully, Marco can do a little bit better than that tonight, as he nearly loses it actually at turn 5, but is on to the DRS. And it does sort of blow my mind, you know, that this track, this is a man-made island. They could have done anything they wanted, and they somehow managed to make a straight which just stops a lane at some point. It's the most confusing straight I've ever seen. You can even see it on the map, like they've incorporated it. It just sort of takes a wee jink to the left. And it wouldn't at all surprise me if someone actually managed to get caught up at that at some point in the race. And like I say, I'm a big fan of the longer sort of corners. We saw who was it? Zhou Guanyu make a good move running outside there in a real race. So there are potential overtaking spots there as we get a localised yellow. I see I'll be thinking about these the whole race now that you said this. This is the lowest traction point and the easiest to possibly invalidate. Other saying that, Marco did go well off the track in both corners there that I was on board for, and he still managed to, well, okay. He kept it invalidated. Yeah. Well, he got invalidated eventually, but I'm surprised it didn't happen beforehand. Frankly, I'm amazed there's still a wheel on that car. He broke for a flat-out corner and hit the wall on the inside, so not exactly the best line for that. I wonder how many other drivers were watching that, perhaps, and now I know what not to do.
Yeah, that was definitely interesting in interpretation of the track limits around that third sector. Is Thomas
Feels like
never
low practice, doesn't it?
Oh, and it is a track that can catch you out here. It's especially as you say with the new layout, these guys aren't used to it. If you've not done a couple of laps around here to get used to it, as Thomas is going to do a 26 flat to set the first benchmark time, then it can be quite difficult to get used to. Of course, it's quite a lot of the time for these guys. It's almost muscle memory of driving around most of these circuits. I know it is for me. I don't tend to practice too often, so you kind of just go in and you almost forget half the stuff if they've completely changed the layout, like in Australia as well. Matt Shepherd out on circuit now. Podium last week in Imola, very nice indeed. On his Joker, managed to finish in second position, I believe jumping up a position at the end on penalties, but just missed out on the race victory. And so he'll be looking at another decent result tonight. It's not going to be a Championship 5 appearance for Matt Shepherd, really. He's minus 17 in the chase standing. So unless we see a massive swing over the next two races, it looks as though it's going to go, we've got MX Sight, we've got Speed Quinn, we've got Bazza are the ones that are really fighting for the Chase Championship. But what do we see from Matt Shepherd up to the line? It's going to be about a 25.8, so puts him on provisional pole just ahead of Thomas.
Well, good news for Bazza. We're going to get to see most of his lap because Kaya went and crashed at turn 2 on the way up the hill. Same place where we saw, who was it, Druvla and Fittipaldi in the wall in the F2 sprint race as Bazza gets out of turn 5. Again, you can see him just sort of struggle on the traction as he comes out there. You've got to be so careful there. And the same out of this next chicane because these are the two fastest points on the track. A good exit will obviously translate the whole way down both of the long DRS zones, and you can see Baz just a bit hesitant as he avoided that orange curb on the inside, but is on to the DRS now. And I'm quite liking the delivery on this one actually. We tend not to see green used too much in many good ways. That's mainly Jamie Wright's fault, but I'm liking the green trims on this.
Yeah, it's not bad. Adding it to a little bit of red and white, it's and the black as well. To be fair, nice reflection of the colours. I like using green.
It's a good Abu Dhabi flag, actually, really, isn't it? That's not
not
what he's going for.
Actually, it's not wrong. Oh, God, he gets away with that. He doesn't get away with that though.
I feel he could have had
get out the throttle
a bit longer there, couldn't he? He might well have been able to get a lap on the board. Instead, he was starting dead last, unless of course there's any disqualifications throughout the session. But that's a shame for Bazza.
That was tricky. As you can say, got on the curb on the exit of the corner, and then as soon as he ran on effectively too deep, got underneath the car with the bumps, and unfortunately, that is curtains for qualifying for him. Now on to Quinn. Now Quinn, who's sitting just outside of the chase, and he's really chasing down MX Sight, who is not here this evening. So this is really Danny's opportunity at getting a decent haul of points and hopefully pushing himself towards a Championship 5. And so Quinn really needs to nail this night. He's been much, much better over the last few weeks than he had been for the majority of the season. So maybe a little bit of pressure is what he needed. And what can Quinn do as he comes into the final two corners? You can take this corner completely flat now and into the final corner, maintain the speed, use a little bit of the runoff and up to the line. It's going to be a 24.8 for Quinn. Much nicer time there. A second faster, puts in pole position.
Here comes Rageman, then who will be next up. Obviously eliminated from the Championship 5 now, so he is just playing for fun, really. And we'll see how he gets on. Another Seb tribute helmet. I'm not surprised we're seeing a few of these now. Of course, the big man's now retired. Again, we always see a driver retired. We're always like, he'll come back soon. But I do actually feel like Seb is one of the few that actually won't. So these tributes, well used. As Rageman goes second fastest. And I'm still a fan of the very, very simple livery. It reminds me a bit of the Rapax cars actually in GP2 back in the day. Second place, not too bad.
One person that isn't running a straightforward and solid livery is Jacko. He's out on circuit just starting his lap, but also Speed Sully out there as well. So Sully back after a little bit of a trip away to Brazil in which he didn't manage to catch the F1, but he was there on flight out with the likes of Gunther Steiner and Nick de Vries as well, who he managed to catch up with in the airport before they flew out. But Sully, who was one that was maybe on the way to the Championship 5 if he didn't have that break, and so he is quick. He's of course finished second not only in Jeddah but also in Monaco, so he's been on the podium a couple of times this season. It's 2 podiums. He's taken a best plus minus of positions gained to lost over the race once this season, and he goes quickest. A 24.611 puts him 0.2 of a second faster than Quinn. So what has Jacko got? Because he is out there just about to finish his lap.
-5 on Jess at the moment, and that'll be his main target. Just get that 4th place in the playoff standings, and that'll put him into the Championship 5. And I'd say he does have a realistic chance of making it there. I feel he'd be a bit disappointed in himself if he doesn't make it. Although look at that as he heads through the penultimate corner, way off the road, and spinning through the final corner as well to properly ruin his lap. Invalid, of course, but he still has to get to the line. He would never break his own rules in that respect, but that was a disaster for Jacko, and absolutely not the way he wanted to start his evening.
No, not at all. And he also completely forgot to brake on the entry into turn 12 as well, and got all over the curb, so he would have lost a heap of time. So, another shocker for Jacko, who will be starting at the back with the likes of Matt Lester and Bazza. Over to Yuri, who is in the way of, or in the part of the third sector we've seen so many people have issues, and that is exactly that we've seen from so many. What is it about this corner? It's catching out. Turn 14, catching out car after car after car.
It's the one I mentioned. It's that exit where you just cannot get on the throttle, and if you ever look at the throttle trace, you can see even when they are spinning, they're nowhere near full throttle. It's just that difficult to get through that corner. They are really, really struggling here. As we go to see Matt Lester, now he in the championship is -7, so he also will be feeling quite good if he can get himself to the line. Already seeing Jacko not get a lap done, and I believe that's Jess as well being the next one after him, and so he'll be able to get a pretty quick representation of where he stands. As the game claims, he sets a apparent middle sector, but really his main focus, with everyone struggling, he's done it as well, Gareth, is to get to the line, but he won't with a competitive time. He'll still end up probably going 6th or 7th fastest, but that's as good as it'll get for him.
Yep.
And so that means we can look at Jess. Can Jess, who currently sits in that 4th place in the playoffs, get herself a good lap on the board and maybe look at extending that advantage tonight?
Yeah, it's fascinating. All the top two, the guys that you'd be expecting to be nailing these laps are really, really struggling. So we'll see what Jess can do. She's managed to stay consistently in the top 5 of the championship all season long. Does she make it round this corner? Very, she does. Finally, we've got someone that goes around turn 14 at speed into the final 2 corners, carry the speed into the last 2. What can Jess do as she comes up to the line? It looks as though it's going to be about a 125. It's a 125.957. So not a bad lap there from Jess. Puts her into P5 on circuit. Matt Roseman out on circuit as well, so he's currently going down the back straight over a 1,000 metre long, 1,233 metres is this exit from the exit of the hairpin all the way down towards the heaviest braking zone on the lap. Turn into the left, turn into the right, get it straightened up, and of course now you've got another bit of helping of DRS sending you down towards the next braking zone, for a somewhat braking zone. You kind of can just a little bit of a coast as Roseman makes his way up there, and what can Newgarden do as he comes towards? You can see the DRS flap closing. Can he maintain the speed? This is where you can lose the back end if you go out a little bit too wide. No, he's done very nicely indeed, and Matt maybe not having the end of the season that he was looking for either after a strong start as well, but still well in with a chance of the Championship 5. As Jacko said, he had floor and sideboard damage going wide at turn 3, so unfortunately, Jacko, you should stay on the track, mate. You won't get that. So into the final corner goes Newgarden. What can he do? It's going to be a 25. It's a 25.326, puts him currently P4 on the second row of the grid.
And then here comes Sebastian Vettel himself, the dominant, it has to be said, Leroy, who, after his win last week, most wins over the course of a single season in the Kia Series, and obviously topping the championship. He's already qualified for the Championship 5, essentially. Well, he is, isn't he? It's not even just essentially, he just is. And he's sitting 4th in the Cup Series playoffs as well, so he's potentially on to win both titles in one season. But can he get pole position here today? It looks pretty good, and it's not even close. The only driver in the 1 minute 23s. And yeah, even if he doesn't win the title this season, we're certainly watching the last 3 races of Leroy's Kia career.
This is the man that a couple of races ago was throwing a tantrum that Jacko was saying he's too quick for Kia. So he just takes pole position comfortably by, what is that, 6.5 tenths? Yeah, 6.5 tenths of a second. So yeah, that is Leroy on pole position. And in fact, you missed what I said in the Kia chat earlier, Owen, is that a Hasselager has been on pole position in Kia every race since round 4, if you take away Jeddah. So Yuri and Leroy very much sharing the spoils of pole position, and so Leroy taking his 5th pole position of the season. Every time he's had a pole position, he's won a race. So not on the same race, but of course he's on 4 poles. Now he's on 5 poles. Can he make it 5 wins? Of course, he's got 3 fastest laps. He's only accumulated 6 seconds of penalties the entire season so far.
We're not giving the rest of the field much hope, are we?
No, so he's very much, and as you say, this is the man that is well in the hunt for not only the Kia Championship 5 but the Cup Championship 5, and almost putting himself into conversation for a season 6 champion chase in Cup next season, going in with the likes of Iceman and of course Kia and Jamie and the like. So Leroy takes pole position at 1:23.989, and in comparison, if we go back to earlier in the season, he did a 1:24.839. So that is the time that he did in Cup that took P8 in that. So he's taken almost a second out of his time that he managed to pick up in Cup. So wow, what a lap there from Leroy. He takes pole position ahead of Sully and Quinn, making it an all-speed top 3. Robin Border in 4th. Then we've got Speed Newgard in 5th. Matt Shepard in 6th with Jess in 7th. Thomas Nether 8th. Matt Lester in 9th with Yuri rounding out the guys that finished with a timed lap. Kaya, of course, crashing out on his quali lap, will finish without a time. The likes of Marco Schneider, Jacko, Harry Collier and Bazza also invalidations in there, meaning we've got 5 cars that are due to start at the back. Of course, your jokers for this week are Mick Schumacher and Thomas Nevitt, so they will be making 1 stop throughout the race, unless they throw it away. Of course, if there's a late safety car, you might as well come in, get rid of the joker and put on a set of softs. If we have another final lap dash as we had in 2021 between Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton, you might as well try and get your way through that one. But I don't know, Owen, you can't look past Leroy tonight, can't you, with that sort of pace?
I suppose not, but what was the last time in Monza that I was saying this about Leroy? Not even a lap later, he had crashed. So you never count out him bottling when I'm here. I mean, actually, to be fair, Monza's just a terrible place for him anyway, in terms of me jinxing him. I guaranteed him 2 victories, he lost both. And we'll see if it goes any better tonight in Abu Dhabi. Obviously, we saw in the Cup Series a last 2-lap dash, I want to say, and that went all over the place. So we know that it can happen here. And I suppose those guys on the Jokers, they can still obviously do 1 green flag pit stop and then take advantage of safety cars later on and still be at the front. So, you know, there is actually merit to that, I suppose, even though it is still a traditional 2-stop track. But if you're able to take advantage under a safety car, that's obviously much better than having to do 2 green flag pit stops and then make that safety car stop anyway.
Yeah, absolutely so. So as we go ready for the formation lap, welcome everyone. You are watching the 11th round of the JACKOCAR Kia Series. It's the second tier in JACKOCAR, and we're heading away for our regulation formation lap with Leroy pole with Speed Sully in P2. JACKOCAR is an F1 and NASCAR hybrid league, so the points are different. There are stage points, and of course you will also see some nuances as we go on throughout. So we'll be talking about jokers. There will only be 1 stopping. Everyone else is on a mandatory 2-stop strategy at least. There's points from 1st all the way down to 15th if you finish. And of course, you will also be picking up extra championship points that will go towards your tally if you win stage 1 or stage 2. Of course, finishing on the podium, winning the race, and getting the fastest lap. Also, pole position has already gone to Leroy, so it's an extra point to add to his tally as well. So there are plenty of things that you can find out about JACKOCAR by going to @JACKOCAR, where Mr. Ricketts himself, I'm sure, will be able to answer any of your questions. But the best thing to do, go back and watch all the races that we've had so far this season. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you do all the good stuff you do on the socials, like and share, and of course, if you're new and you're enjoying it, subscribe. My name is Careful, joined by Owen Wyatt for this one. We're about to get ready for the 11th round of the season. Just 2 more races in the regular season. Well, I say the regular season, in the this part of the season before we go to the all elusive Championship 5. They are all hoping to get to that, and of course some people have been knocked out already. We have only got really 5 drivers that can get in. We've got Yuri, Speed Newgarden, Jess Ball, Jack Ricketts and Matt Lester that will be hoping to make 4 positions. And then in the chase, it's Michelle Goris who's missing tonight, so watch out for Danny Quinn, Barry Baldwin and Matt Shepherd. Do we also see Thomas Nevitt sneak in as well? He's still within the points limit. Of course, he's on the Joker tonight. Can he make it count? We will find out very, very shortly as Leroy pulls around. He's managed to keep the grid quite nicely bunched up so that no one's going to be getting or sitting on the front row of the grid, and let those tyres cool down as into the box. And we didn't see a spin from Yuri. I was expecting Yuri to do as usual, coming out the final corner and trying to put a bit of flair. Unfortunately, Jess pulls a little bit too far forward, so does Kaya, and so does Yuri. So Owen, why don't you take this one away?
Oh, that's an honour. It's not even my tier. As we see the lights come on then here in Abu Dhabi. It is 2 rounds to go before the Championship 5, and the lights are out. Boogity boogity boogity. Let's go racing in Abu Dhabi. Looks like a decent start from Leroy. He should lead this one easily into turn 1. Elsewhere, a big dive bomb there. Who was that? Thomas Nevitt. What a move. He's already up to 5th place. There's a few moves happening at the back, and Rageman was in the wall too. Will Kaya make it up that hill? He crashed during qualifying. You could see incidents there throughout the race. It appears he has, which is good to see. But it's Leroy already by 1.1 seconds who is leading this one, and he may well be off into the distance.
Gosh, we have got contact throughout the back of the pack as well. We had Yuri sending it down the inside of Jess and also up past Matt Lester as well, so making up some positions off the start. There was, as you say, contact at the start between Rageman and I believe it was Bazza as Yuri tries to go down the inside of Matt Shepherd and runs all over the curb, and you're going to find yourself getting him some floor damage and some side pod damage if you do that more often, because of course the curbs here maybe not as vicious as we've seen in Monza, but still very, very destructive to the car. But Yuri down the inside, can he get the move done? He does, so making up another position. So that's Yuri already up into P6. Matt Shepherd tries to come back at him, but it doesn't quite happen. So Yuri already now on the back of Thomas Nevitt. We've got a yellow flag for Kaya, who's gone around and is on the exit of the reshapen hairpin. Unfortunately for Kaya, he's going to wait for a safety car, I'm sure, if he can get back going. But Yuri still fighting with Matt Shepherd. Matt Shepherd not giving up the position at all, but into the box comes Leroy, Quinn and Yuri, getting rid of one of the stops very early.
And Marco has been off for a spin, so he's lost a lot of ground on that Joker, and you can see he's got no confidence heading through those last 2 corners. It could be a long evening for him if he keeps it that, as he's straight on the ERS out of the last corner as well, which won't help too much. As we see that 3-4-way scrap then for what is now P2, held by Thomas Nevitt as he heads around on his Joker. And it was a superb start, like I say, he made those 3 spots up straight away. And is that an incident on the run up through 3? Yes, it is. That is Mick Schumacher again. Now, that's where drivers were coming out of the pits. Hopefully nobody got involved in there. I believe that would have been Leroy and Quinny would have come across him, but I think they're okay. And Mick Schumacher does have now front wing damage, so that will need to be into the pits soon enough. So that could be the Joker already going down the drain. But look at Matt Shepherd all over the back, and Lesty too. These are all very important positions as Lesty moves up ahead of Matt Shepherd. And will there be any attempt on Newgarden? He may well just sit back and wait for a while there. But Sully by 2.8 seconds, very much leading the early stages here. But of course, I would imagine Leroy will jump him when he pits.
Yeah. as Thomas Nevitt has made an absolutely fantastic start on the medium tyres. It's not like he's even gone for the softest compound. He's out there on the mediums. Oh, Matt Shepherd just about skims that Tech Pro barrier, but manages to get away with it. But into the box now comes Newgarden. So Newgarden in off of the soft tyres. So stayed out a lap extra. And you see there, that's Bazza going slightly wide on the exit of the final corner. Jess as well. DRS now enabled. So this is where it's going to change up. We're going to see where does Leroy come out in relation. He's coming down the main straight now, just crosses the start-finish line.
Thomas Nevitt, you could see it happening, and that will be a safety car almost certainly there, with a huge pile-up happening here. And, well, I don't quite know how Baz has avoided the wall there. I don't know if you saw that curb hopping there. But, yeah, you could see his rears were going all the way up through turn 1 and 2. And then eventually, when Thomas Nevitt got to turn 3, there was no grip left, and Matt Shepherd had no way of avoiding that one. And that was quite frankly remarkable that Bazza did. But has he got any floor damage? Because that car was bound to let out a kangaroo.
Yeah, I managed to catch it just as Bazza was about to launch himself into the stratosphere. So unfortunately missed the initial contact. But as you say, unfortunately tangled up with carbon fibre everywhere. With an unfortunate Matt Shepherd, who was enjoying a good start to the race, and equally Thomas Nevitt. And I don't know, is that tyre pressures? We know that tyre pressures around here can really, really struggle. If you've got them up, you really have to run them as low as possible, because up here it can really, really hurt you. And Matt Shepherd unfortunately just tangled up in it. So we'll have to see from the guy's POV how that went. And equally,
I was going to say, just sorry to interrupt, but it's just that I had noticed that Thomas Nevitt had set the fastest sector 3. Behind Sully, even though he was on the harder compound tyre, which must have meant he was taking a lot out of them already, and so that's why I kept my eye on him. Obviously, I forget that I'm not the one streaming it, so I suppose you weren't able to see my point of view, but you could see it was going to happen. I'm just like, he's going, and he sadly did, and he just picked the worst place. By the way, Kaya is currently reversing. He's going to fall a lap down at this rate, and it's only lap 3, so he's going to make sure he really just keeps it calm here. He'll have a chance to catch up to the safety car and get himself back in the race, but unfortunately he's back to his old tricks of the ERS, so I suppose there's a chance you might not see it happen much for him. Now, Mick Schumacher's into the pits as well as Jacko, and what the difference of this is for Mick Schumacher, the only joker left, is that he is indeed throwing it away, but he is taking a new front wing, and still only has to make one green flag pit stop, so this does get him back into contention. And he'll come out in, by 10th place. Harry Collier gets these soft compound tyres off, and yeah, again, we're just going to have to assume all the drivers will behave themselves, because I've already lost count of what's happened.
We're a great commentary team, aren't we? Just making sure, as we just stare at the screen. We're leads, this is what it is. What happens when you have two lead people doing it. So, Kaya exiting the final corner, as you say, manages to keep it in a straight line, might even... probably actually just managed to stay in 13th position. Looks like Harry Collier is going to get out in front on a new set of soft tyres, so going aggressive once again for Harry Collier. But net race leader is still Leroy. In second is Newgarden, and in third is Quinn. However, Quinn going for a set of hards compared to Newgarden's mediums. Yuri equally going for a set of hards as well. Jacko going mediums. Marco Schneider, otherwise known as Mick Shoot 47, going for hards. As I said, Harry Collier on the softs, and Kaya stopped a little bit earlier on for a set of hards as well. Everyone from the first down to fifth yet to stop, so that is not going to help for the likes of Sully, who was running very nicely, however is still due to make 2 stops. Rageman, a 5-second penalty I believe added for ignoring the yellow flags. So I imagine that would have been overtaking Thomas Nevitt and Matt Shepherd having their own separate crash before they'd retired, and then being given that. So that's an unfortunate one, because he's going to unfortunately have to serve it, and therefore he can't have it taken off. So we're now under safety car conditions. The race has been neutralised. We're going to wait for the final 4 cars, or final 5 cars, to catch up. And we will be going underway. But I'd love to find out from Thomas what if he'd just taken across your TT setup into the race, because obviously we know you run much higher tyre pressures in time trial compared to what you do in the race, and that may have been the issue. And but equally, we've seen, as Jacko was saying in qualifying, if you have any sort of damage, then in really that turn 3 section almost becomes an ice skating rink. The same thing happened to myself in Cup. You get a little bit of floor damage, and I got rear wing damage on lap 1. 1 and going around turn 3, it's so high downforce that as soon as you lose any sort of downforce and the car's a little bit damaged, unfortunately it's going to swap ends, and when you're swapping ends at that speed, as Martin Brundle would say, it's going to be an airplane crash.
Yeah, and it was. So they'll be wary of that for the restart, especially if you're, say, Sully, because, I mean, you can see how much he's warming his tyres up behind the safety car, which I would have thought would be coming in at the end of the lap. I would have thought Kaya and Harry Collier would be able to catch up by the time they get around. But, if warming the tyres this much, that run up the hill will be a bit precarious in 1 or 2 laps' time, and you'd hope they'd prepared for it, but sometimes you just don't know how the car will react in race conditions until you're already halfway around the spin. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you won't be able to react to it.
Yeah, and unfortunately that's the nature of the beast when it comes to simulation damage. Of course, these guys all running sim damage. So safety car in this lap. So the lights are out and the Mercedes AMG will make its way back into the pit lane. So Sully now becomes the effective pace setter, and he will be able to go basically on the exit of the final corner. It is your restart zone. Slow it all down. You've really, Sully wants to go when everyone's on the apex of the final corner. So how early does he go? Is he going to leave it to the line? He leaves it a little bit later, but off he goes, and he's taken with him the top 4. Jess behind has maybe not got the greatest of restarts, and Leroy's already down the inside and will take 5th position off of her. She's still fighting with him, but Leroy is already on it. We can see there's two wide between Rageman and Bazza. That is very brave indeed, as they're going to go side by side, and it looks as though Rageman's managed to get up ahead, and behind Matt Lester's still fighting away with them, and we've still got Harry Collier and Mick Schumacher battling for 11th and 12th, so changing positions on the restart. But you can see as Jess goes a little bit wide, there's still side by side between Harry Collier and Mick Schumacher, but it is Sully now from Robin Border, Bazza, Lesty and Leroy up to P5.
And Leroy then will be just looking to be patient here as he gets himself through, because you'll know that there'll be a lot of tentative sort of driving going on in front of him. He knows he can be a bit more confident being the quickest driver out there. And we'll just see how his progress is as we see Lesty on the back there, and Kaya's gone for a spin once again. But Kaya, or not Kaya, but Lesty on these softs, he'll also be wary because he knows that Jacko and Jess are 9th and 10th, and those are the 2 drivers that he'll be making the most sort of notes on, and we'll see, of course, he's got to make pit stops later on, but I'd say Jacko actually might be feeling quite confident with where he sits. He's already got ahead of Jess in the restart. He knows that Lesty will have to pit out of his way later on, and that 5-point gap to Jess, that'll soon start to fall. So that's sort of the main thing we have to be looking at. With those Joker drivers essentially out of their Joker as Sully pits, it'll be about those playoff drivers now, because let's see, where about in the chase? I suppose Bazza Hill pit out of the way as well. Danny Quinn may be able to make up some ground, but and Matt Shepard, of course, out of the race.
Yeah, this is, as you say, it's going to ebb and flow as this race goes on. We're getting down to
Leroy, look at this.
Side by side in towards the hairpin at turn 5. Is he going to get the move done? Sweeping around the outside, and Matt Lester's going to show him the door. But Leroy, with the new grip of those tyres, managed to get the move done. Lesty, of course, on old softs, and softs do tend to burn out here. So they're now making their way down the straight, and Leroy's already on the back of Bazza. Bazza's going to defend the inside line. Leroy's going to have to go the long way round, and is Bazza going to give him the space? Oh, that was very careful, but unfortunately for there's going to be contact between multiple cars.
It's front wing damage for Quinn as well. That is such a shame for him.
And that's a shame for Bazza as well, because Bazza's having a solid race, and Leroy, I'm sure, will take the fall for that one because he was given the space. He just had a snap of steering lock when he put the throttle down, and unfortunately put him into Bazza. Bazza's going to lose it, and he goes into the wall. And I believe that might even be that there was some side pod damage, and that brings out our second safety car of the race. So that does actually save the likes of Sully, who's just boxed, and Jess, who's just boxed as well. So they can now close up, having completed a mandatory stop. So that does help them out somewhat. However, Leroy, I'm sure, will be in the box for... No, he's not. So he stays out, as surely he's got front wing damage of some sort. But Quinn is in, as you say, Quinn with front wing damage as well. Very much went straight into the back of Leroy. And Danny, unfortunately, has been a bit of a contact magnet this season, and whether it's been his fault or not, but into the box for a new nose cone. Bazza, equally, will be in and holds up Quinn a little bit there on his way in, but Bazza will be fuming with that. He gave him the space, and unfortunately for Leroy, it wasn't malicious, but still, unfortunately, will be taking, I imagine, a post-race penalty for that one.
And that does throw this race up in the air a little bit now, because obviously Leroy was the only guy that we were realistically considering for the win. So that would surely mean, assuming Newgarden stop was legal, wasn't it? He'd be sitting as our net race leader now. Yuri does have 2 stops, but we are reliably told in the comments that second one wasn't legal, and Jacko, I believe, made one under safety car as well. Yeah. I mean, Mick Schumacher's Joker now seems working a little bit better, although of course he will have to get these tyres a long way into the race, but he's absolutely on this now. And we'll see how this one all sort of plays out as the race progresses, but now we'll have to sit behind the safety car for a couple of laps and assess the situation later on, because it is only lap 8 out of 29. We have got so long to go in this thing.
Yeah, as you say, Yuri with another stop as well due to make. So there's still guys that will, of course, mandatory 2 stop. If you've just joining us, this is the 11th round of the season of the JACKOCAR Kia Series. We're under safety car in lap 8 of 29. My name is Gareth Hall, and I'm being joined as usual by Owen Wyatt for this one. Make sure you join us on Thursday for the Cup Series, as we've got just 2 more races left to go before the Championship 5 in early December. We head over to Canada, which I believe is, I've been reliably informed that is always chaotic in Cup. I don't think I've actually done a racing Cup at Canada. Yeah, I don't think so. I think I was away for the last one. You're not going to like it. You're not going to like it. There'll be I've got nothing to lose now. Everywhere.
And by the way, Thomas Nevitt has now told us he was using low front pressures and the rears were 2 clicks from the left, which would suggest perhaps a low ride height. Perhaps maybe low rear ride height as he climbed the hill. I could see that bottoming out and maybe causing the spin then. But either way, unfortunately, it has him out of the race when he was looking very strong at the start. And Kyle, by the way, in the pits again. What's he going to put on? It's going to be the soft compound tyres. So he's banking on another safety car, I would have thought.
You'd hope so, unless he's a magician. So Kaya into the box. That adds to his tally of pit stops that will be going onto my list, as there was one that Bazza was after last week. He was, can you count up how many pit stops have been done so far this season? Well, I say Bazza, it was 398 been done up until this race, and as you can see, plenty more have been completed already. So the one person that I'm actually quite interested in watching as this race progresses is Sully. Now, sitting in 9th position, he is, of course, out of the running for the Championship 5. He was eliminated due to missing the races after being away. However, yet to win a race, but he's the only full-time driver this season to not pick up a track extension penalty, which whilst is a completely wild unanswered stat, however, what it does mean is it's much like myself, is I tend to not pick up track, whether it's a little bit slower or not, but it does help you in the long run. So this is a track where you can see track extension penalties, especially through the first sector, especially through we see 5-second penalties come up quite frequently as well, with cutting corners in the chicane sections, and maybe not so much now that there's the double hairpins, but it is definitely still potentially a bit of a like extending turn 1 you'll see quite frequently. We saw Lewis Hamilton really struggling with that last weekend. So can Sully do something from Peanut? I'm just spitballing here to find reasons, because of course Leroy, surely Leroy has got some sort of front wing damage. I mean, whether or not he's still got an end plate on both sides, but he must have at least green front wing, and that will unsettle the car, because you think there was quite considerable damage or considerable contact with Bazza to put Bazza into a spin like that. So I'd be surprised if Leroy gets away with it.
I think he pushed him a little bit as well afterwards, so there was a couple of wee nudges after, so I would have thought it would be light damage, but I suppose it's not worth losing all that time and dropping to the back of the grid just for a little tiny bit of damage. But of course we'll see if it affects him, if indeed he has got damage. I suppose it is possible he could have nothing, because it is one of the slowest corners on the track, but yeah, it did seem to give Baz a bit of damage because he went and crashes out at the next corner. So, yeah, it'd be a bit odd if it didn't go both ways. Holy moly, that camera shot made that look a lot more precarious. I don't know if you had the same shot as me for when Mick Schumacher just wandered off the road there.
Yeah, that was, and some quite aggressive weaving from the guys at the front as well. So, yeah, enjoyed that one. But I think I also had it in qualifying. There was a car that just appeared in the middle of the track on the exit. I think it was on Matt Shepard's lap. So good to see Codemasters, as usual, up to their old tricks with how they model the game. We had some severe desync in VSL last week, which was something that I thought we'd left behind in 2019, but clearly not. So safety car in this lap 10 of 29. Feels like we've been going forever already, as they're chatting away in as by the looks of it, Pete Knighton working as race engineer for the speed cars tonight. So good luck, speed drivers. I believe it'll be the 4-stop strategy with a set of new tyres for the overheated spin tyres that have to go on if Pete's given you the directions. But Rageman will be leading us away. He's sitting on that 5-second penalty, which he'll serve in his stop. Lesty behind. What can he do from Leroy? Leroy, of course, on tyres. Those 9-lap-old softs are going to be absolutely nowhere for Matt Lester. So what can Rageman do? Exiting the final corner. How long does he wait? He waits. He's going to wait until the line, and he goes very late indeed. And it's going to allow Matt Lester and Leroy to go with him. Is Leroy going to send it down the inside going into turn 1? Surely he's going to get the job done, because Matt Lester's not going to have the grip on exit, and he does. He manages just to shovel him out wide a little bit, but all's fair in love. But it all gets a massive snap of oversteer on the exit, and he's going to go round. It's going to have the wall. Oh, he just misses the wall there. So luckily gets away with that flat spin, and he's still in the race. But Leroy, as you say, just unsettling the car and going around. So back underway, still green. No yellow flags for that one, just a localised yellow for Leroy going around behind it. It looks so slow with this camera mode as it come down towards the braking zone, as Mick Schumacher swerving all over, trying to get in the mirrors there of Newgarden, and Jacko equally as well, staying well in the tracks of Newgarden. So you were saying just a few short minutes ago that Jacko looks well placed for a decent result tonight. Currently sitting in 5th position, as we've got a yellow, as that's Kaya that's gone around again. But yeah, Jacko sitting in 5th position. He'll be pretty happy with his progress so far.
He'll be very happy with his progress so far. I mean, he's sitting in a net podium position right now. If he can get himself any further up, perhaps it could be even better than that. He only has one victory this season, and it did come in slightly questionable circumstances. Of course, he had to make the move still at the very end, but the speed drivers were moving out of the way, so he would have been finishing only on the podium that day. However, this time, if he can get himself by Newgarden quick enough, there may be potential for a genuine victory here, and he is now ahead as we see Newgarden into the pits. Yuri now leads the race.
Yes, that's Newgarden, I believe, his second mandatory out the way. So onto a set of hard tyres, surely, for Matt Roseman to go to the end. So Newgarden do very nicely as Bazza picks up 3 seconds for track extensions. Kaya's gone around again. Let's see if he's got beach, because we know this is where Yuri got beach previously, and looks as though he's got away with it. Is he going to come into box? Surely, because you want to get rid of those soft tyres. They'll be far too warm, as Bazza and Quinn are battling over position going in towards the DRS zone. Of course, DRS not activated just yet, and after the safety car restart, Quinn trying to break the toe, and Bazza's very much wise to that, stays with him, and he's going to peel to the outside. Bazza, of course, who had the contact with Leroy here just a few short laps ago, he's not going to do the same thing. Surely, no, he keeps the distance, and he can now use a second dose of slipstream up towards the second hairpin up at turn 9. Can he go around the outside, because Quinn's are going to cover the inside? Bazza's going to have to look around the outside. They're on completely comparable tyres, and Quinn takes a much more favourable line, and you can see with the exit he gets half a second breakaway.
And Jacko currently going faster than the race leader, so that's good form from him. Let's see, of course, if he can keep it up as he heads through, and hopefully doesn't extend that penultimate corner too many times. Bit of a bad last sector for him, actually, but I think he'll be happy enough with how he's holding on. Of course, Sully, the fastest out there. But, yeah, thanks to Leroy's multiple issues, we do find ourselves with this race where we actually do have to think about where everyone else is and how they'll be doing, because this is properly up in the air, and I'm sure Jess is not enjoying this all that much, knowing that Jacko is in this position, because she'll be dropping out of the playoffs at this stage. if it keeps going like this, as a Rage Man, I believe, has just been off at the final corner. I just think it was Kaya for a moment, but no, this time it's Rage Man who struggled. He went off. He's been off a couple of times today, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's had
the best run.
He's had an on-off season as Robin. He tends to either finish relatively well, and he's going to have to look after these tyres because he's just done a spin and a flat spin to recover. But yeah, lost it on the exit. Just managed to catch it on cameras on the exit, the final corner. Got on the curb, put the throttle down. Unfortunately, it's not a go-kart. These guys are learning with the medium traction. Of course, these guys some of them have moved over from full to medium in the playoffs, so still getting up to speed with it. So we won't criticise too much, of course, but it means you can't drive the car like a go-kart anymore. As Sully starting to catch Jacko by around about 2.5 tenths already on this lap. So starting to close in, 6 laps old tyres compared to 9 laps. And of course, Jacko now starting to fall away from Yuri. So Yuri starting to hold on to that lead. Oh, and there is that first penalty of the season for Speed Sully. So
who would have thought? Who would have saw that coming after the stat earlier?
Well, yeah, that's completely ruined your stat there, Sully. You could have been a hero as
Owen's an accident.
Owen's. It's not only sounds like he's fallen through the floor, but it's also by the sound of it just caught Mick Schumacher almost doing the same thing.
I know. I was checking the stats on my phone at the challenge, and I just see Mick Schumacher pull into the middle of the track, and I near panicked. Luckily, they all missed him. It's unsighted into there. It's unsighted.
It is.
You can't rejoin like that. Sorry about that, viewers.
So, this is truly professional. We've got a yellow flag. Again. He's gone again. Oh, I've just come off camera with him as well.
I'm not laughing at Mick. I'm laughing at my professionalism, which of course is in turn unprofessional. Again, I do apologise.
Oh, Marco. He's
not going well, this, is it?
No, and to be fair, he's got Kaya coming up behind him, so I don't think that he's going to have to worry too much about getting in the way, because I think it's going to take. Kaya's managed to get through this section. He's managed to not spin for the last few laps, so he's actually starting to learn. So well done, Kaya. But he's absolutely obliterated his battery. We've got a yellow once again for Marco, who just needs to look after these tyres. Just stop gunning the throttle on exit of every corner. Now Kaya's about to make a legitimate overtake because he's going to be well in striking range. So I'm aware that Sully is now closing on Jacko, but I do want to see Kaya try an attempted overtake because it's not something we see previously. But Jacko almost loses it and will get overtaken by Speed Sully. So Sully up as Jacko got on the throttle a little bit too early. And
well, I'll tell you what though, he's going to get a load of DRS now. So I wonder if that is a little bit of a tactical move as he actually throws it back on the inside of 5. But he already has the DRS. I don't know quite why they're playing cat and mouse on the exit. He's already got what he wanted, Jacko. And well, he's just letting Quinn into this instead of just breaking away. And they're running relatively level on speed as well as they head down that back straight. Will Jacko now try and slow it down again? No, he won't. He'll just go for the move. And surely Sully and potentially Quinn as well will be all over him in a moment as the DRS opens up. And yeah, that'll be an easy enough move as Mick Schumacher will be getting lapped in a moment. And these guys, they're keeping on fighting. They'll come up across him. Again, unsighted in that last sector if a car is facing the wrong way. So Mick has got to be properly careful here that he doesn't actually cause a problem for anyone.
Yeah, he's been a bit of a rolling yellow flag over the last 2 laps, so we'll see. It looks as though Yuri might just miss him as he gets to the line. Surely Marco will be in for a set of tyres. No, he carries on. So Yuri's going to now come up to him, and you can see Marco is all over the place on exit, and surely just pulls to the side and lets the race leader through. So Yuri leading the way. The all-time race or laps led, I believe, record goes to Yuri. Race, and of course his race winner. As record goes to him as well, but can he carry it on? He's going to have to do another stop later on in the race. Sully is equally on for another stop as well, and he's still battling away with Jacko, and Jacko in fact has just been overtaken by Quinn, so Quinn making up for this, but they're going to send it down the inside of Marco, who does get out of the way for the pair of them. So Jacko fighting over DRS once again, and can he get it this way here? So he does get it on Danny, so they were side by side, and it looks as though Jacko's won out, but not the greatest straight line speed, so running a high downforce setup is Jacko, because even with DRS, he's not even making a slight inroad there on Quinn, who may have been using his battery, but even so, to defend as Jacko. Oh, that was close.
And you know what? He's been struggling for a long time now. He is losing buckets of time, and he may have to take that second pit stop. But the problem is, this is screaming high tire pressures. And this is not something that'll just be easily solved. And, well, Jacko, this is not a day to end up putting it in the wall when you're in such a good position.
Yeah, and like you say, this is the sort of thing where you really need to look after the tyres, as Kaio's gone around and out of the race, and as you say, it is a safety car. So, this does change it up a little bit, because we've got stops that have been made. So 2 stops have been made for, I believe, Newgarden mandatory. Jacko and Yuri made one of theirs in a safety car period, so they all still need to make a mandatory one. So I believe at the moment our net P3 would be Newgarden, Harry and Leroy, who is still in P11 after that spin. So well, this does change it up. Like 16 of 29, so still plenty of racing to go. But if you're Newgarden, who's into the box now, so Newgarden deciding to make another stop, deciding to come off those tyres, might as well. He's made his mandatories, but he's going to go off the hard tyres onto a set of mediums, and he's going to have to go 13, 14 laps on them. So we've seen that Jacko starting to struggle big time on the mediums now. He's done 13 laps, so this is where really not only strategy but also tyre pressures and setup will come into play, because you need to be looking after these tyres, especially later in this stint.
Indeed. So we'll see Leroy in the pits again. Now this will be, I assume this will be to the end of the race now, and he'll obviously be sitting on the back of the pack and have a chance to make some moves. Same with Newgarden, and I'd be giving Newgarden. I don't know, do we call Newgarden one of the favourites as opposed to win this? Because I would have thought, even if Leroy beats him, there has to be a penalty down the road for him, right?
Yeah. You'd have to say so as Yuri comes in. If I was the stewards, and I'm not, so I'm not going to make any sort of recommendations, but it did look as though that was predominantly the blame of Leroy. So I think he might have to take a wrap across the knuckles for that one. Sully stays out, of course, sitting on 3 seconds. Quinn stays out, and Bazza stays out. So 2 drivers with penalties in the top 3. They'll be wanting, I imagine, to make another stop a little bit later, maybe onto another set of mediums, perhaps onto a set of softs. Jacko's onto softs that have already done 2 laps, so he's onto his quali softs that not only have gone for a spin in qualifying, but have got to get him the next 11 laps or so. So.
Wait, but has he done his mandatories? Were those 2 stops earlier actually mandatory?
Well, I believe that one of them wasn't. So
yeah, so we'll have to pit again off these at some point.
Interesting. I mean, this is where counting the pit stops would be.
This is where actually we need Jacko in the commentary box.
Yeah,
he's
is
the one who does all the counting, really.
Yeah, do us a favour, Jack, and just put it in the wall and come and join us.
Yeah, you don't. Realistically, just a bit like Gareth in the Cup Series, we could do with you in the box for the Championship Fives. I mean, really, people, you've had your fun.
People thought I was disappointed when I was eliminated last week, and really it made everything work. So
yeah, I know we certainly weren't all that disappointed.
No, not so yeah. Thanks to OKK. I'll be watching. I'll remember that next season. But Sully in P1, Speed Quinn P2, Baz at P3, Jess up in P4, but due to make another stop as well. Yuri, of course, due to make another stop. Matt Lester, I believe, may have completed his stops. Of course, this will all shake out. The reason why we're all sounding confused is that it is a mandatory to stop. However, you can make 1 stop if you are the Joker, which you can elect to take 1 race per season, barring the final race of the season.
Speaking of which, Mick Schumacher's not going to make that work on a set of the softs, so the Joker's actually going to make his 3rd stop of the race. which probably won't help the confusion much. And I think he's actually been off the road on these as well.
Into the box for Marco Schneider, and he is now a lap down to the entire field because Leroy's about to come past, and Kaya, of course, retired, which means that is Newgarden. My apologies, Newgarden. I'm sure Matt will be gutted as I thought that was this Kaya. I completely forgot that Kaya retired from this race, but it is Kaya De out the safety car. We've got Newgarden and Leroy now up into P10 and P11, so that means that Marco doesn't actually need to get out the way come the safety car restart. So there might have been tactical actually for Marco just to get himself to the back of the pack. So nicely done there for Marco. Just needs to keep it on track for the rest of the race. Long way to go, however, on a set of softs if you're Marco Schneider. Even longer way to go if your name is Jack Ricketts.
Yeah, and well, this is it. I think Yuri and Jacko will basically end up going aggressive on the restart, pit again, and be rapid at the end of the race, and hope that they'll have what did happen in the Cup Series and have a chance at the very end of the race. And yeah, they'll make that stop and just hope that there's another safety car, because that's going to have to be their strategy. So we'll see a lot of overtaking, I hope, on this restart, and then you'll see the likes of Newgarden and Leroy actually have a chance to get into the end. Same with Mick Schumacher, although of course a lap down means he won't really be able to do anything, but still, at least he may get involved in some way, shape or form. So we'll see how this lot get on. But yeah, definitely keep your eye on Yuri for the restart. Behind Jess as well, so no offense to Jess, but we know that she's not good at restarts. And so he'll need to be quick past her. And I'm expecting the safety car lights to go out here. And there we go, Gareth.
Yeah, you were just saying that Jess isn't the greatest of restarts, but this is kind of crunch time for Jess. She needs the position. So this is where Jess needs to not think so tactically and start...
She's on the worst tyres on the grid, though.
Oh, I know, but that doesn't stop you getting your elbows out. And she might need to do so if she's got the likes of Jacko behind and Matt Lester as well. So here we go. Sully is about to get started, and he gets off, and it's a much better restart from Sully. Manages to bridge a gap behind. Bazza's trying to go around the outside of Quinn going into turn one. That's going to be a brave move because Quinn's going to go all over the curb, and Bazza's going to have to take to the runoff. Jess equally so. But you can see Yuri already showing up the inside of Bazza, but that isn't going to work. And that one is, however, as he sweeps down the inside. A nice move there from the Dutchman. And he gets up into P3. Of course, the reigning champion in the Kia Series, Yuri Hasselager, and behind they're all fanning out, trying to find some room on the real estate. But well, we've got Sully from Quinn, from Yuri from Bazza, from Matt Lester. Jacko hasn't made any positions yet on those soft tyres as Matt Lester goes to the inside of Bazza. Bazza's going to push him right up to the wall, but you can see he's not going to give up easily, and Matt Lester's going to have to do it the hard way. He's going to go around the outside and he's going to get the job done. So nice move there from Matt Lester. Bazza, on much older tyres compared to everyone else, is going to get swamped now. As you can see, Jacko goes around the outside of him. Rageman's going to want to do the same thing going in towards the hairpin, but can't get the job done just yet. Rageman is surely going to wash out. Oh, just about manages to miss the back end of Bazza there as the car almost washed out on the exit into the side panel again, and Bazza would have been put around for the second time in this race. But Jacko getting the moves done. Equally, Yuri back up into P3 as you can see, all finding their way around the tricky section. We saw so many cars go around in qualifying, and it's not actually a corner that too many people have suffered with, as into the box does come Sully and Quinn. Jacko in as well.
So that's pit stops finished, and I tell you what, with Mick Schumacher so close to getting beached on the curve, that was so nearly the safety car that he would have been looking for Jacko and Sully and Quinn as they all were in the pits, but Mick Schumacher does continue. And so Yuri back in the lead. Like I say, we're told his second pit stop was not mandatory, so if he thinks he can get to the end, the stewards, I believe, will have a word with that, because that would mean he's made 2 out of his 3 stops under safety car conditions. So keep your eye on that. If he stays out as Raceman moves back up into the podium positions, despite having such a bad day so far, if he moves back up and keeps that win, stewards may well take it back off him, unless of course they look at his onboard footage and find that he was good. But yeah, we'll see. Maybe he'll pit anyway, but I'm surprised he hadn't done so already.
As Marco Schneider goes for another spin, but up ahead we've still got Bazza fending off now Harry Collier and Newgarden. So Newgarden on the charge, he's smelling a race victory if he can get up some decent positions here, because he's got much nicer tyres compared to some of the guys up ahead of him. Lap 21 of 29. Kind of needs to clear Harry as soon as possible, because Harry's now starting to fall off the back. He's about a bit of a a bit of a rubbish third sector, really. Now in towards the hotel section as you sweep underneath the hotel and in towards the corner where you can effectively put it flat out from here all the way into the final corner. If you can keep it on the inside, as Harry Collier is going to run out slightly wide. DRS is now enabled, and into the box comes Robin Border, otherwise known as Rageman 32. Yellow flags goes to Marco Schneider once again, who's either got some sort of tyre pressure issue or some sort of underbody from running over the curb so much, because that is a lot of spinning that the German is doing down in 12th position. There's another yellow flag for him as well. So I'm just going to double check, because we don't want him getting beached, as Bazza's now losing positions to Bazza's gaining positions and losing positions, because out of the pit lane will come Rageman and Bazza. Jess as well has made her final stop. She drops down to 11th position as Rageman, as Mick Schumacher has got going again, but really suffering with those tyres. Harry Collier back onto the back of Newgarden, and so Newgarden has cleared Collier, but Harry trying to stay with him as he goes around, and he's going to go into the wall quite hard from behind, and that might be rear wing damage, which is unfortunately almost a race ender around here.
Yeah. But we'll see, though. See how he gets on. But yeah, I'd be very surprised if that isn't rear wing damage. We'll see into turn 9, really, if that thing goes around. But he, well, he's not exactly confident, is he, as he heads around the corner. So I would say that there are slight problems for him there, which is a shame to see. And yeah, and there he goes. So yeah, that is race essentially over. He's going to have to crawl back to the pits route, or just crawl to the end of the race in general, because that'll be absolutely undrivable.
Yeah,
as we see Matt Lester into the pits.
It is genuinely awful rear wing damage, not only here but anywhere. And what he's going to have to watch out for is Sully's coming up very quickly behind. So yeah, so he gets out of the way. So into the box comes Harry Collier. So Matt Lester in and Harry Collier in.
Leroy has no rear grip whatsoever. He's crawling round here. So I'm not entirely sure if he keeps like that, he'll be anywhere near catching Newgarden by the end of the race. And Jacko, by the way, just on his points, he's only 2 ahead of Matt Lester, but he is 5 ahead of Jess. And so as of right now, it would leave him as the man who'd be sitting in that 4th place. So he, right now, will be on his way to the Championship 5. But of course, there's a lot that can still happen, including that, as we see Rageman past. And the problem is now, Lesty on those fresher softs, he now has to catch, pass, and then make some ground on Jacko. It could be him who moves up ahead of Jess, but I have a feeling they'll both end up ahead of her at this rate by the end of today. Yellow flags again up ahead. Now that'll be for Mick Schumacher, and hopefully he'll just move out of everyone's way.
Yeah, does so. Pulls to the right-hand side of the circuit, lets the guys lap him for a second time behind. Bazza now attacking Matt Lester, going up in towards turn 14. Can he get the move done? Nope, Matt holds on the racing line, and Bazza has to think better of it. But on a set of softs, these two kind of need to work together over the next few laps, because they have got the tyre advantage over Jacko. Jacko onto a set of new mediums from his stop, but these guys onto a set of new softs. So Quinn equally is being taken with them, and Jess, well, she's got 7 seconds to catch up, so it's maybe not going to happen for Jess this evening. Lap 24 of 29 as Robin Borders' fastest lap of the race at 1:26. Yeah, yellow flags in sector 3 goes out, I believe, once again for Marco Schneider. It is on the exit of the final corner. So Marco's spent the majority of the evening, unfortunately, sampling the downtown Abu Dhabi nightlife. But in towards the hairpin first sector goes Quinn, who's sitting right on the rear wing of Basu, who has got a 3-second time penalty. Quinn gets a much better run through the corner and will shape him up with DRS. Surely he's going to use some battery as well. He's still got over 50% to go. Basu is going to once again show him to the door. This is almost like Alex Albon and Charles Leclerc in F2 in 2019. But Quinn pulls out of it at the last minute and allows Bazza back through. So didn't commit to the overtake, decided that he needs the points, and therefore thinking about this a bit more strategically, which is good to see from Quinn, because we saw last week in Imola where he just threw it down the inside, unfortunately, and got tangled up and ended up spinning out of a potential podium. So this time around he can just think about it and go on a different adventure a little bit later on in this race. However, Rageman is the man on absolute fire at the moment. 5th position. He's already cleared Jacko by 2 seconds, and he's right on the back of Sully.
So watching back the second pit stop of Yuri's, because that is what is deciding this race at the moment. And you know what? I actually think he's got a case. because with how early the pit lane entry starts, he was right about the correct point to commit for the pits. And when that thing came out, and obviously OKK has said it'll be reviewed, I would not be at all surprised if it does get reviewed and actually gets accepted as a genuine pit stop. So we actually could well be seeing Yori come through to win the race. But yeah, the stewards will have their say on it, but I think he may actually be all good as we see Rageman up into 4th place, and as you say, making the ground up quite nicely, but he'll have a long way to go to catch Leroy, nearly 9 seconds, so I'm not sure he'll get there, but with how little grip Leroy looks to have, you just never know. As we see Quinn again having to go at Baz. He's going to go for the outside this time, and he's got a lot more straight line speed than Baza. Will Baza fight him back? He may well wait to the next DRS zone, and we'll see if anything happens there. But yeah, well, Baza has the penalty anyway, and that was not a good exit all over the orange curb, so he will lose out there. And Lesty on Jacko. This is potentially big for the championship because that is Lesty up into 6th place. And let's see how much further he can get along. Now, is that into the wall this time? No, Harry Collier gets himself away from that one, but a big spin up through turn 2. Always a worry. And there's still potential for a safety car if someone drops it now.
Yeah, and I think you kind of need to, whilst we don't want to detract from the race, keep your eyes on the 2 white icons on the track map, because they're the 2 that are going around with considerable damage and may bring out a late safety car as Rageman picks up a penalty. So whilst Sully has got one to join him, so it's not going to hurt him at the moment, but what it does do is hurt Rageman if he's closing, because he's already taken 8/10 out of Leroy on this last lap. So it is currently a speed 1, 2, 3 as Jacko, as you say, getting
really struggling.
Yeah, getting really. It's tricky to say, as you say, if it's set up or if it's tyres. These tyres, of course, he's being chased down by Quinn, who's on the same life, but maybe this is set up for Jack Ricketts. Behind, Bazza and Quinn are hoping to chase him down. Jacko goes very, very defensive. Almost turns completely 90 degrees left. He's going to make Quinn go the long way round.
He fancies that second DRS zone, doesn't he? But he'll get it as well. And with Quinn going deep, that should be him easily able to get back past. And he's got to make sure he stays ahead, because I reckon if it finishes like this, with 2 positions difference, I want to say it'll either be level on points or it'll be 1 point difference between Jacko and Lesty. And with Jess down in 10th place, all 3 of them will be very, very close when we get into next week's race. And that'll be really the main sort of fight to watch, because there'll be 3 drivers absolutely going for it in this fight for that 4th place in the Championship 5. I reckon the other 3, who are Matt Rosemond, Yori, and obviously Leo, who's already in. I mean, they're 1-2, Yori and Matt Rosemond. So you'd say those 2 would be pretty good. They already had a big advantage, so I would say you'd be seeing Leroy, Yori, Newgarden, and then it'll just be between Jacko, Jess, and Leslie. So that's how important this fight is for the playoffs.
And we know that every point is important. We had a driver eliminated by 1 singular point last week in Cup, so it can go right down to the wire. So as you say, Jacko really needs to keep Quinn at bay at this point, because with Matt Lester now a position ahead of him, and with Sully in his sights with that penalty, it means that Matt Lester will be moving up a position if he can hold on to it, as Quinn's now going to get the run on Jacko. So does Jacko do the same and let him go? You can see he's got about 25% battery left to deploy, and is he going to look to do exactly the same as last time around, as Quinn is going to go in, but this time you can see takes the chicane a lot nicer. What's the exit like? It's much better for Quinn, so he will be able to most likely hold on to this, because Jacko's going to try and come back at him, but he's going to need to make the move, because we're on lap 27, about to be 28, so only 2 laps left to go. There's a yellow flag for a car that's on the exit. I think that's Marco Schneider, and you can see these guys with damage are out there really hurting the guys that are hoping to push out. It's Harry Collier, so Harry Collier with a 10-second penalty, getting out of the way, which was good to see from Harry, but unfortunate for him, he won't be picking up any more points than he would have been in 11th. He's now a lap down anyway, but Jacko is really under threat from not only falling, falls out of DRS, but it does sit without a penalty though, so Bazza won't be too much.
Now, of course, Quinn is going to take the lead of the chase at the end of this one, so every position he makes as well will be very important. And assuming Michel Goris is back next week, you'll be seeing that fight between Michel Goris, Danny Quinn, and Bazza for the last chase spot. So you'll have 6 drivers who'll be really thick in the action for this sort of pre-season finale. Well, it's not really pre-Championship 5 finale. We'll say that because there's all sorts going on. And so, yeah, I think they'll all be just a little bit conservative towards the end of this one because they'll be sort of laying their spaces and then properly going for it next week. And, well, Yuri, nearly 10 seconds clear of Matt Roseman. And tell you what, if he wants to win this championship, today's a very good statement of intent. Of course, the reigning champion, he's done it before against his brother. And, well, having seen how dominant one Hasselager can be, he'd like to show that he's got the pace as well. And, well, as he comes on the final corner, 1 lap to go, and that gap is now up to 10 seconds. Very impressive. And Rage Man, look at this, all the way to the back of Leroy. He did actually close down that 9 seconds. And, well, if he can get by quick enough, perhaps he could actually legit be on the podium. As we see, Lesty's off. Lesty's off.
Big.
That is a big, big mistake. So close to the end of the race as well, and Jacko, in the nicest possible way, will be delighted to see that because of all his struggles. That is ideal for him.
Oh, Matt Lester, what have you done in a race that you needed to take pointers around the outside? What a move for Rageman as he goes around as Robin Border takes the position off of Leroy. And, well, he's got a lap to take out 3 seconds as Sully, in fact, is not too far behind Leroy. So Leroy must be really suffering. You can see he's already trying to harvest battery on the exit of the hairpin. He's not going to be able to use it going down the straight. He's got DRS, but he's surely not going to have the room to go down the inside. It's going to have to be a very late lunge indeed, but Robin's going to cover the inside line. And what's the exit like? Because we've got Yuri making his way around the final few corners now. So the reigning champion and the current record holder of most wins in the Kia series has just got a few more corners left to go. It's his brother who's holding on for a podium at the moment, but it is Yuri with just a few corners left to go. He can cruise this one. He's got a huge advantage. Don't put it in the wall now, Yuri. We wouldn't like to see that at all, would we? Oh, as he kicks the rear end out and just about gets away with it, doesn't he? As he takes the race victory. Well done to Yuri Hasselager. Matt Rosemond, fantastic race there from him as Newgarden makes it P2. He will be absolutely delighted with that. Look at the gap. You can see Rageman, he's made up, well, almost 2.5 seconds across the line. Leroy is going to get onto the podium by, 4/10 of a second, surely about that. So, yeah, he holds on to that. Rageman, 7/10 of a second across the line. So it's a speed 1, 2, 3. Rageman, Quinn, Sully, Jacko does finish ahead of Matt Lester just by a single point. So Bazza down in P9. Jess is not far behind. She only finished 800ths of a second behind Bazza, so that's not a great result there for Jess. She loses ground in the Championship 5, effectively their hunt for the Championship 5. So she just does lose a couple of points. However, it will be, Jess in P10, Jacko P7, Leslie P8, that is going to be mighty close next week.
That'll be very, very close, I'd say. That is going to be one of the main thing to watch, and then with a little sort of side fight, seeing Quinn and Baza trying to overhaul Michelle Goris, or be overhauled by Michelle Goris, because that P5 for Quinn is a big result, actually. And if he can do well next week, then he would be joining them lot on the Championship 5, and let's say it is all starting to fall into place. But as you saw today, the order flipped on its head so many times. And, when you're in the last race before the Championship 5, we tend to see quite a lot go down, historically.
No surprise. As Yuri takes driver of the day as well, and I always thought he was a bit overrated. But Yuri Hasselager takes the win once again, adds to his record amount of victories in Kia. And, of course, that second stop, I'm sure, will be adjudicated. But we all know Yuri. He is very much a man that likes the rules. So I don't think he would have bent them if he was trying to. But decent race. Both Yuri and Matt Roseman kind of checked out at the end of that. The strategies worked perfectly with the safety cars that came out, and the battle was really with Robin Border chasing down Leroy for the final step of the podium. But it is once again a Dutchman winning in Abu Dhabi. You hate to see it as Yuri as Yuri takes the win in 48 minutes 54 seconds with 3 stops. In fact, the entire top 3 taking 3. You've got Yuri going from P10 to the win, Newgarden from P5 to second, and Leroy dropping down a couple of positions. Rageman in P4. with the fastest lap with Quinn, Sully, Jacko, Matt Lester, Bazza, Jess, Harry Collier and Mick Schumacher. To their credit, both Harry and Mick Schumacher making it to the flag with what seemed like an endless amount of spins between the pair of them. Kaya, Thomas Nevitt, who looked as though it was all going to fall into place with him with a fantastic start, and equally Matt Shepherd as well, who was collected up by Thomas Nevitt in that crash that took the pair of them out, and he'll be disappointed because it was looking like it was going to be a decent result from M Shep as well. But if you're Yuri, you're going to be very happy with your race tonight.
Yes, and like I say, it did look like I say locked into the pit stop, but he saw the opportunity because he saw the yellow flag come up. He must have had the map on. I'm sure he was told what was happening. He reacted to it on time. He was in the right place at the right time. But, these fast reactions are what win you races, and I'd say he will be very happy with himself because I'd say it was legal, and it's a good win for him.
So, as usual, for Mr. Okako himself, we'll go 4 drivers of the day, and we'll see if we can fit 4 in, because I've definitely got a couple in mind. Who have you got for your potentials?
Well, let's say I need to think about this a little bit, because, like I say, I'm happy to say Yuri, because he made the right decision at the right time with the safety car. I don't think he's going to get that win taken off him. And I know Quinn has went down a position, but with how the race ended up going, I think when you're thinking about the championship and the chase, just to be able to keep your nose clean and make the moves at the end of the race when he had to, those moves could be crucial for his championship. So I'd be going with Yuri and with Quinn.
Yeah, good shout. They definitely would have been in my 4. I'm also going to add in Newgarden. Fantastic podium once again from the man that was the regular season champion last season. And Rageman, he will be bemoaning that spin at the final corner with about 8 laps left to go, because that would have been a guaranteed podium if he hadn't had it. So, Robin Border, Rageman 32 will round it out. So, drivers of the day for OKK, if you're still listening in, is Quinn, Yuri, Newgarden and Rageman, which I'm pretty sure is the top 4. We could have added in...
Leroy's in the middle of there, don't worry, but we're not going to go for him, because he had a horrendous race, really, very standard.
Exactly, and he's a cup driver driving in Kia, so...
Yeah, exactly, what's he doing there?
Exactly.
Don't mention the race winner.
No, stat padding. So both the Hasselhuggers will be back next week. So will hopefully Owen and I, as we finish off the playoff season and the postseason at Brazil, Interlagos, the Jose Carlos Pache circuit. So just one more playoff race to go, and it is set to be a doozy, because as you say, it looks as though both Matt Rosemond, Yuri and Leroy have automatically qualified, so they'll be in the Championship 5. It is very much now going to be who makes that final spot from the qualified drivers in the going for the final spot in the so between, what have we got? We've got Jacko, Matt Lester and Jess will be chasing it down, and of course then it is very much who wins the chase. Is it Quinn? Is it Michelle Goris? It's going to be so close. So make sure you tune in next Tuesday for that at 7 p.m. with myself, Gareth Hall, and with Owen Wyatt. Make sure you join us on Thursday for the first of the final round of elimination races in the Cup Series as we head over to the Canadian Grand Prix. Plenty will go off, so make sure you do the good stuff you do on the socials where you like, share, subscribe, do all the good stuff over there as well. Make sure if you want to follow us, you can go to @JACKOCAR on Twitter. If you want to find out more about the Cup Series and JACKOCAR in general, you can go to @JACKOCAR2, that's the number 2, to find out all about the Kia Series, where Mr. OKK will be able to answer any of your questions. But for now, for this week, and for this round here at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix as part of JACKOCAR and the Kia Series, thank you very much for joining us. Have a great week, and we will see you on Thursday.